Our topic for today is all about strategic management, and specifically, it's external assessment. It is lesson 3, or external audit. So this is different from the external audit that is being done by the audit firm, yung pagle-lend ng credibility by an auditor to the company upon performing of the audit. So this is different. Ito po yung tinatawag din na environmental scanning, which is looking up to the different factors outside the company if it would affect the company as a threat or opportunity. So environmental scanning is the process of gathering information about events and their relationships within an organization's internal and external environments. But in this case, it is external scanning because we are on the point of view of the outside world of the company. So the purpose of an external audit is to develop a finite list of opportunities that could benefit the firm and threats that should be avoided. So di ba ang SWOT analysis? Yung SWOT analysis, yung strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Yung strengths and weaknesses is on the internal side of the company, sa internal environment. While yung opportunities and threats, yan po yung sa outside or sa external part ng ating company. So these are the factors that cannot be controlled by the entity, but they can be managed through strategies. So meron po tayong tinatawag na opportunities. These are yung may good effect to our company, whereas the threats are the external factors which have a bad effect on the company. Like for example, yung COVID pandemic. So it is an external factor, hindi siya makokontrol ng ating company, but we can mitigate the effect depending on the strategy that the company will make. So these external factors are being subdivided into 5. We have here the economic forces, yung social, cultural, demographic, and environmental natural forces are grouped into one because they are somewhat related. Political, legal, and government forces, somewhat related. Technological forces, and lastly, the competitive forces. So these are the 5 key external factors that we are going to consider. So sa madaling salita, yung pag-audit ng externally or external audit, yan po yung pagtingin sa labas ng company kung ano yung mga nagaganap, ano yung mga factors na pwedeng makaapekto sa ating company. Kagaya ng sinabi ko, yung COVID pandemic, yun po yung hindi nakokontrol ng company. Another one is yung advancement of technology, sa labas din po yun. Yung mga bagong competitors sa market, sa labas din po yun. Economic forces naman, like unemployment rate, like spending pattern ng household, at saka yung bagong batas na pinapanukala, like yung kagabi, merong pinanukala na extension of calamity, anong tawag nun? Nakalimutan ko yung tawag nun, but parang in-extend siya until September 2021 yung pinirmahan ni Pangulong Duterte. So, yan po ay makakaapekto po sa ating business. But those are external factors, so we don't have any control to that. So, ito naman po yung mga stakeholders ng ating organization, or the factors then that could affect our organization, just like the competitors, suppliers, distributors, creditors, customers, employees, communities, managers, stockholders, labor unions, governments, trade associations, special interest groups, products, services, markets, and the natural environment. So kindly look at the flowchart that is being flashed on the screen. So yan po yung mga factors na makaka-affect sa ating organization that would lead to opportunities and threats. So why do we want to know those factors? It's because if we know that there is an opportunity, we as an organization can do something or can make some steps to grab that opportunity as it arises. Whereas if there is a threat, then we can do mitigating factors, um, strategize, kung papaano hindi masyadong maapektuhan yung ating organization. Like for example, if we are a grocery store, so there is a COVID pandemic, which is an external threat. Tapos yung gagawin natin is to resort to online selling because online selling is another venue para maka-earn tayo ng sales despite the COVID pandemic. So that's it. So we have here the different objectives. I think you have already read this because I have given the handout in advance. So how to conduct an external strategic management audit, discuss 10 major external forces that affect organizations. Yun na po yung na-mention natin kanina, but then we are going to discuss it thoroughly later. Describe key resources of external information, including the internet. Discuss the importance of monitoring external trends and events. Discuss the importance of gathering competitive intelligence. Describe the trend toward cooperation among competitors and discuss market commonality and resource similarity in relation to competitive analysis. Okay, so I have already discussed about the external forces a while ago, so I will just read the given description on the screen. So it affects the types of products developed, the nature of positioning and market segmentation strategies, just like what I have mentioned kanina. The grocery store na usually physical store yung ginagamit nila, pumupunta doon sa store nila yung customers. But because of COVID pandemic, nagkaroon sila ng strategy to resort to online selling. So nagkaroon sila ng online platform so that even though there is a pandemic, they can still have sales. So ayun, affect the types of products developed. So ayun, because of COVID pandemic din, nagkakaroon din ng maraming supply ng mga face mask, ng mga alcohol. So napansin nyo, dati hindi naman natin pinapansin yan. Dati parang weird nga pag nakakakita tayo ng nakamask kasi ano siya, hindi siya common. But then now, it's very common na because of the external forces like the COVID pandemic. And then, directly affect both suppliers and distributors. Okay, focus tayo sa COVID pandemic pa din because it is very timely. So, paano ba nakakaapekto yung external forces sa suppliers and distributors? As we all know, now that there is a COVID pandemic, medyo mahirap po ang ating distribution. Medyo nahihirapan po ang ating mga courier, just like yung LBC, JNT, ano pa ba, Ninja Van, kung sino man dito yung mahilig mag-online shopping. So, alam natin na medyo nagkakaroon po ng delay sa distribution or sa delivery because of restrictions sa mga travel ban, sa mga etc. pa. Yung mga nagkakaroon ng checkpoints, etc. So, another one is identifying and evaluating external opportunities and threats enables an organization to develop a clear mission, to design strategies to achieve long-term objectives, and to develop policies to achieve annual objectives. So, ayun. Di ba ngayon nagsusulputan yung mga online shops, yung mga nagbebenta ng pagkain. So, napansin nila na may opportunity kasi nga yung mga tao parating nasa bahay. So, dito sa lugar namin, in our locality, so there are a lot of shops opening that render services online. So, nagde-deliver sila ng food online. Nakuha nila yung opportunity na yon just because of yung quarantine nga kasi nasa bahay lahat ng mga tao. So, nakita nila na may chance na magkaroon ng business during these times. Okay. So, are you familiar, class, with the PESTEL analysis? Kung yung SWOT, yan po yung sa strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The PESTEL analysis talks about yung steps that are taken in assessing the opportunities and threats. So, napansin niyo po, yung mga factors po dito ay yung factors na na-mention natin kanina. The political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors. So these are the key environmental factors outside the organization that should be taken consideration. So, pag gumagawa tayo ng external assessment, we should focus on these factors. So, yung tawag po sa technique na yon, one of the techniques that are being done is the PESTEL analysis. So, ito po yung meaning po ng mga words na bumubuo sa PESTEL. Yan po. So, what is or what are the use of PESTEL analysis? So, PESTEL analysis is a tool used to analyze and monitor the 6 macro environmental factors that may have a profound impact on an organization's performance. So, ayun. So, balik tayo dito. Using the PESTEL analysis, tinitingnan natin kung ano ba yung political factor na makakaapekto sa ating company or organization. Ano ba ang economic factors that could affect our organization, social factors, technological, environmental, and legal. So, it is a tool used to understand the long-term trends and how it might impact the business. And this tool is especially useful when starting a new business or entering a new market. Just like yung sinabi ko kanina na dito sa amin, merong nagsusulputang online shops, specifically yung mga food, tapos nagre-render sila ng door-to-door delivery. So, nakita nila yon because of PESTEL analysis. Nakita nila na dito sa technological factor, because sumusulpot dito yung advancement of technology, nasa online na lang magbebenta. Environmental factors naman, because of the COVID pandemic, etc. So, legal factors naman, ito sa legal factor, it is very timely din because nagkaroon yung BIR ng circular, or RR ba yun? Revenue Regulation Circular. Okay. So, nagkaroon sila ng RR na rinilis noong, I think that was noong June ata or July. Tapos, yung due date niya until September 31, dapat mag-apply na daw sa BIR yung mga nag-online selling. So, it is one of the legal factors na dapat i-consider. So, kung hindi pa nakakapag-register, dapat nang mag-register before September 31 para walang penalty. Okay. So, we have here the process of performing an external audit. So, the first one is, syempre, we should involve muna as many managers and employees as possible because external audit cannot be done only by one person. The more people, the better. So, ayun. First is, gather competitive intelligence and information about economic, social, cultural, demographic, environmental, political, governmental, legal, and technological trends. Where? So, pwedeng sa mga online resources, sa mga news, pwedeng sa mga survey, pwede ring magtatanong ka lang sa online. It depends. So there are a lot of resources or sources of information. So next one is submit periodical scanning reports to a committee of managers charged with performing the external audit. So ayun, after gathering, you should submit naman the scanning reports kung anong na-find out nyo from the research or from the scanning na ginawa. And then, next one is assimilation and evaluation. So titingnan natin doon kung ano ba yung mga dapat i-consider ng mga researches or mga information at at hindi. So specifically, a meeting or series of meetings of managers is needed to collectively identify the most important opportunities and threats facing the firm. So, magpipili sila doon kung ano ba ang dapat i-consider at dapat hindi. So, these key external factors should be listed on flip charts or a chalkboard. So, pwedeng gumawa sila ng mga chart using the flip chart, yung parang papel na sinulatan ng mga ideas, tapos titingnan nila kung dapat ba itong i-consider or hindi. Or pwede rin namang chalkboard. Or depende, pwede rin PowerPoint if they want. So, parehas lang naman yun. Next one is, a prioritized list of these factors could be obtained by requesting that all managers rank the factors identified from 1 for the most important opportunities or threat to 20 for the least important opportunity or threat. So, ganun din. Irarank lang nila kung which is more important that should be considered first and which is the least important. Okay? A final list of the most important key external factors should be communicated and distributed widely in the organization. So hindi lang po itatago sa mga managers yung information na yon, it should be distributed widely. So from the top management up to the bottom, yung mga line personnels natin, frontline personnel, dapat alam din nila yon. Okay. Sabi ni front or I don't know how to pronounce this, so disclaimer, emphasize that these key external factors should be important to achieving long-term and annual objectives, measurable, applicable to all competing firms, and hierarchical in the sense that some will pertain to the overall company and others will be more narrowly focused on functional or divisional areas. So important, it's self-explanatory. Dapat related siya sa pag-achieve ng ating long-term and annual objectives. Measurable, ma-assess natin kung or ma-evaluate natin kung gaano na ba yung progress. So applicable, pwede siya sa lahat ng competing firms. And hierarchical naman, pwede siya sa each division. Tapos pwede rin siya sa pangkalahatan. Will pertain to the overall company. Tapos pwede rin siya focused sa mga divisional areas or mga departments. Okay, kindly take note of this 4. This will be important. Okay, so this part, it only enumerates the different economic forces, specifically yung mga ito yung forces sa US to. But then it is also applicable to us in the Philippines. But meron siyang naka-specify dito sa United States, etc. Because our book is from, my source is The Strategic Management Concept and Cases of Fred R. David. So he is a foreign author. So ayun, these are the different examples of the factors that should be monitored. Shift to a service economy in the United States or in the Philippines, availability of credit, etc. These are just examples. You can just refer to this if you are going to make a PESTEL analysis. Okay, advantages and disadvantages of a weak dollar for domestic firms. Ayan, kindly look at this na lang. This is very important then. Leads to more exports, lead to lower imports, weak dollar. Okay, for social, cultural, demographic, and natural environment, these are the different factors that should be considered. The childbearing rates, number of special interest groups, number of marriages, yan. Yan po yung mga examples na dapat nating consider if we are assessing the social, cultural, demographic, and natural environment. So if you are going to do the PESTEL analysis, you can just look at these different specific factors pertaining to social, cultural, demographic, and natural environment. Wait, it should be environment. Okay. So you can just look at this kung gagawa tayo ng PESTEL analysis para we are guided. Okay. Again, my source is Strategic Management Concepts and Cases, 13th edition by Fred R. David. So next one is the political, governmental, and legal forces. Ito na po yung in-example ko kanina, which is applicable sa Philippines, yung taxation on online selling. It is one of the legal factors. Governmental regulations or deregulations, yung pinipirmahan pa lang kagabi na extension of state of calamity, yon tama. State of calamity until September 2021. Okay. These have a big factor in decision making ng ating companies. So, voter participation rates, number, severity, and location of government protest. O, di ba? Pag maraming protest, so maapektuhan din yung economy natin. So, number of patents, changes in patent laws, environmental protection laws, etc. Marami siya dito. So, this is very specific to American, but then it could also be applicable to the Philippines. Yung sabihin natin Chinese-Philippines relationships or China-Philippines relationships. Oy, yung latest, the Korean-Philippines relationship. So, it is a great impact din sa ating company, especially if we are selling mga K-dramas na movie or tapes. So baka yung iba, I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything about that, but it has a great impact on the type of business sa ganyang klaseng negosyo, okay? Okay. So kindly look at this na lang because there are a lot actually. Another one is the technological forces. Okay, technological forces. Nowadays, because we are handling classes online, so it is very important that schools could adapt to this online learning facility. So because of the pandemic again, and because of the switching to online classes, yan po yung isang factor na dapat natin i-consider if we are a school or educational institution. Another one is yung airline, sabi sa book na many airlines now offer wireless technology in flight. Automotive vehicles are becoming wireless. Dati 'di ba yung mga cars wala namang remote 'yon para pag titingnan mo sa parking area kung nasaan na ba yung car mo, hindi mo siya kaagad makikita because wala naman tayong remote. Ngayon, meron ng mga cars na merong remote. So, isang pindot mo lang, tutunog yung tutunog yung car mo, then madali mo na siyang makita. So, if you are in a car industry, if your business is in a car industry, then you should adapt to that change. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-stick lang to yung mga dati. Kasi mapapag-iwanan ka. You should innovate. So innovation is important in business, especially if it talks about the technology. So, okay, dito naman tayo sa publishing. So dati, yung books natin is puro hard copy. Yung actual book talaga, physical book. But then now, because of advancement of technology, dagdagan pa ng COVID pandemic, e-books are increasingly available, especially now that we are conducting classes online. Okay. So marami pa yan, like